Yeah, like I feel in these times, especially like with pandemic and with like environmental crisis, so many things happening, being grateful is so important, like so important, and not taking things for granted is so important these days. Yeah, you're right there. So how important it is to use positive self-talk in a way to change attitude, or like a pep talk to change attitudes.
Yes. So, see, it is really important to have a positive self-talk to change attitude, because when we are having a negative mindset, we tend to, see all things in the negative light. We cannot focus on the positives or the good things that are happening in our life. Okay, so, just let's take an example, which is very common these days, the current COVID situation.
Yeah.
So everyone was locked in lockdown previously for the 2 months or 3 months in their houses and could rarely move out. Although some allowances are there for right now for jobs and mandatory services that are required for daily. But then if you see majorly, for the past 6 months or so, we have been living a life which none of us, ever imagined or at such time would come, where we would have to maintain social distance or remain at home for a long time, or not see our friends and family for a long amount of time. So here it is very normal for everyone to have a negative thought at first. It is very easy to be frustrated and stressful about the fact that how the business would run, or how if I am this someone fires me, then how will it be going? So I would give you examples of negative as well as positive thought in this particular situation. So negative thinking would be, I got fired, or I want to go out of the house, I want to meet my friends, I cannot meet my friends, I can't handle this lockdown anymore, I need some amount of peace, I don't have enough income. So these are the negative thinking that comes in mind generally if we take the COVID situation in mind. So how do we make it positive? We could think in a way, if someone is very much optimistic and thinks about positive things, so in this situation what we could do is think that I got time to spend with my family, I got to play with my kids after a long time, maybe I got a break from work from after such a long time, so that's good, I came closer to my family, I have some me time as well, and I helped, maybe you could think as I helped in household chores also. So all these things could be, see, negative was, I gave you examples how people think in a negative direction, as well as how it could be transferred to a positive thinking in the particular situation. So similarly, in each situation, we need to train ourselves, train our mind to think and react in a positive attitude rather than keeping a negative one. This helps a large amount to reduce your stress and helps to keep ourselves calm, and helps also in thinking in a more rational and productive way to have some solution. Because when we are stressful and thinking in the negative direction, we are creating a larger amount of more mess rather than getting to the solution. If we are calm and composed and think in a positive direction, I agree there would be some amount of stress at the initial stage, but then we need to train our mind that it does not increase further in a way that hampers our physical and mental health. So we just need to think in a more positive light, and which will help us think more rationally and get solutions.
So after having like this whole talk about stress management and why and how people should like change ideas from negative to positive, why do you think stress management is important? How do you think it helps with our emotions or just like our everyday life?
Yeah, see, stress management, as I said, is important because, see, I gave you so many examples that how we think in a negative way, which leads to stress, how we are not being able to manage our daily life stressors as well, which come just unexpectedly. So it affects our physical health, as mentioned earlier, high heart rate, palpitation, sweating, blood pressure issues. So to reduce those, stress management is important, and emotional equilibrium is also achieved by stress management. Because if we are stressful about a situation, it affects our thinking process, and it narrows down the ability to think appropriately and function effectively. So there are always going to be some or the other stressors in life, maybe paying bills or exam tension or work overload. So that way we need to understand and plan out how to manage the stress for a better emotional and mental peace. So effective stress management can help break down stress and have a happy and healthy and more productive life, if I would say. And as we all want all of us want a balanced life, where we can balance our work, emotions, and as well as finances. So for that we need to know how to manage stress. So yeah, in that way stress management is very much important.
So like how do you think having extreme amount of stress affects people around us or like our relationships? How do you think that has an impact on them?
Yeah, so see, if we are extremely stressful most of the time, it affects the family dynamics, because you will be having a lot of mood swings. Maybe it is workplace stress, so it might affect, you are coming home and shouting and arguing with your spouse or partner, then you are behaving in a certain way with kids. So that aversion is created, and then the family dynamics is disrupted, because then kids would be having a notion that my father comes home or my mother comes home in stress and keeps on shouting. So that the bond that is to be meant does not fill that bond. So we need to balance our life, work and home. So for that stress management is important, so it does not affect our other relationships. Even if it affects the workplace as well. If we go stressful to a workplace, we will not be able to complete our task. We will not be able to, think in a way where we can solve issues. We would be just cribbing about, the negative thoughts that are coming to our mind, and stressing over maybe other family issues. If it's a workplace, environment, and it is affecting the workplace, then there might be some family issues that is coming up. Relationship with friends also gets hampered. In a way where I said that you tend to isolate yourself when you are stressful. You feel that I just want to stay alone. I don't want anybody. So that affects your relationship with your friends also. And if you are an adolescent or a teenager, so it affects your career and study as well, because instead of studying for the exam, you are stressing over the exam results. So that is affecting your study time as well. Generally what people do is, will I get so and so marks, will I get into this college, will I pass the exam? So rather than stressing about the outcome, we just need to study, just need to prepare ourselves, and then we can see what is the outcome, because we don't know. No one of us can predict the future or for sure say that I'll get 100 out of 100. So we just need to stop worrying about the outcome.
Yeah, like especially with the exam situation, everyone thinks about the result first, for sure. So like I mentioned in the beginning that it's not possible for like anyone to have a life without stress, quote unquote. Like from a 5-year-old to 7-year-old, everyone has their own stress that they're dealing with. So what can be the various stressors across different age groups? So like amongst children, adolescents, adults, elderly, what can be the different kind of stressors?
Yeah, see, because every age group has their own stressor and they have to deal with it, or manage to deal with it. In children, what happens, there could be sibling stress happening because they are fighting too much, or one person is getting, because this is always with every sibling, they feel that the parents are liking the other sibling more. So if that is not managed or acknowledged by the parents, so there is a role of parents as well here. So if that aspect is not acknowledged, that maybe they do love both kids equally, but then they have to feed that in the child's brain, because the child is too small to understand all these things at that particular age. So that creates a stress for him. Or maybe if it is a very young child, maybe 1 year, 2 year, we see separation anxiety, where the parents are going out for work, so they feel that the parent won't come back only. So that creates a separation anxiety, which leads to adulthood as well. So that needs to be managed at that particular time. Then if it is adolescence, there could be competition, grades, study, puberty also hits at that time. So stress related to that, how am I looking good or not. For boys it would be, why I cannot be able to grow a beard, other people have already grown a beard. For girls it would be, the other areas of their body, how do I look, am I too fat, am I too thin. Body image plays a large role in adolescent stress life, because that is the phase where they are going through physical and mental changes in their life. Mostly physical changes, because when puberty hits, there are a large number of physical changes and hormonal changes happening. So that if they can deal with that phase easily, so that is where, this most stressors come, both for parents as well as adolescents, because they are facing a, where their hormones are too much into control of their body. Then there is a fear of judgment. Will I be accepted in college? Will I be not accepted in a particular group? So peer pressure is always there. Then right now, if we speak more openly, then there's sexuality issues coming up also. So people, right now there are laws, which are open to everything. But then in society, if we see, people are not that open about sexuality. So those issues also come up. And sex education is also really important. If there is no proper sex education, that could also lead to stress and, other issues. Because people are, without knowledge, also people are getting into trouble.
Yeah.
So, and now if we speak of adults, there could be work pressure, there could be, a bad relationship with their boss, or maybe too much deadlines which they are not being able to meet, that leads to stress. Then family issues could be there, maybe if they are living in a joint family or a nuclear family, there are issues like how to maintain the finances. Kids are growing up. For adults, there is like, they have to manage household, they have to manage kids' studies, they have to manage their other expenses. So all this comes into play for adults. And then if they have another physical issues like, BP, diabetes, so that also comes into another category. So these all are the stressors for adults that they have to face. Elderly, maybe, many people just keep them in old age homes. So isolation for them, maybe emptiness syndrome comes in, where they feel that, their role is no more important. They are not given the proper attention at their homes. They feel that, as it is, if we see the elderly today, they are not very much, good with technology. So they do not understand the fact that, because they see everyone around them as, into technology, into their phones or laptops or tablets or whatever the person is using. So they feel isolated, they feel empty, that, why is not anyone talking to us? Even if, someone takes out time, then at maximum people would talk to them for 1 hour or 2 hours. But then after that, it is like they feel isolated. So it is important for them also to join certain clubs, maybe laughter club that go, or maybe, make friends of their age group and start talking to them, or start just understanding the basics of technology, like using a cell phone. Because there are many elderly people who are still not being able to use cell phone, or they have issues with, hearing on the cell phone, or not being able to have a conversation proper over a cell phone. So these are the stressors that are present in various age groups. As I mentioned, you cannot get rid of stress at any point in your life. So these are all the stages that we go through in our lifetime, and there is no way you can get out or get rid of stress completely.
Like as we started a conversation with. All right, thank you so much, Simran, for joining us today. I'm sure you must have answered a lot of questions for our listeners on stress management, especially during these times when everyone is stressed about the pandemic in general, on top of their other personal stressors. And for our listeners, do check out Simran's MHT directory post, where you can find all her details so that you can reach out to her. Her email and contact information is also shared with this podcast. And also make sure to check out the blogs that she wrote on changing of attitude from negative to positive, which can also be found on the MHT website. And thank you so much for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe to MHT.